maritime insecurity remains one of the significant challenges affecting global commerce and our quest for sustainable use of our ocean resources for economic growth, improved livelihood, and to create jobs. Nigeria is keen to drive this initiative because it is a significant destination in the international and domestic shipping map, accounting for over 65% of cargo generated and headed to the Gulf of Guinea region, with rich endowments of oil and gas reserves. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have delegates from 78 countries present here, and we have more than 40 maritime experts who will be making presentations in the course of this 3-day conference. The conference have 11 thematic sections which have been carefully chosen to ensure holistic coverage of the multidimensional issues associated with maritime security in the 21st century.
The Gulf of Guinea is very critical, not just to Nigeria or Africa, but the world as a whole. The insecurity there affects the socio-economic, political, you name it, anything that has to do with security and business, the insecurity there will definitely have something to do as per impact. So far, so good. We've had participants from all over the world gathered here. And this is the opening day on Nimasa this week. We will be bringing you high points from this particular gathering. So stay with us and enjoy the Global Maritime Security Conference holding here in Abuja, Nigeria. Stay with us.
Introducing the new face of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Nimasa. We are charting the direction for a maritime and regulating the industry for a better, bigger, and more economically stable Nigeria. Evolved to serve you better. We are Nimasa. New face, rejuvenated service. Nimasa, changing the tides in your favor.
Turning to the theme of this conference, which is ensuring that trade and travel by sea are as secure as possible, is a key element of IMO's work and mandate. Indeed, for trade to flow efficiently, the connections between ships, ports, and people must be secure, and a proper maritime security regime serves as the enabling factor for stability and prosperity within the ever-expanding domain of ocean governance. Overall, IMO's approach is to assist member states in enhancing their ability to address maritime security challenges, focusing on what the maritime industry, both the shipping and port sectors, can do to protect themselves and for governments to provide the overarching security framework for global maritime trade. The threat posed by piracy and armed robbery against ships has been on IMO's agenda since the early 1980s. In the late 1990s and the early 2000s, the focus was on the South China Sea and the Straits of Malacca and Singapore. More recently, the focus of piracy activity has turned to the African coast after the significant rise in such activities of Somalia and now the Gulf of Guinea. IMO has developed guidance on piracy for use by governments and ship owners operators. As well, the industry organizations and the shipping industry in particular has been very active in developing guidance on piracy and armed robbery.
The large participation, 79 countries, shows the importance that is being accorded to issues of maritime security globally and in particular to maritime security in Africa. and more importantly, in the Gulf of Guinea region, where Nigeria is located. This conference is of special interest to us as the theme and the sub-themes deal directly with all aspects of our mandate. The threats and consequences of maritime insecurity for the region require us to research innovative, achievable, and sustainable solutions. These solutions can only be found in a framework of permanent consultation and coordination of the activities of all the stakeholders of the region. Given the quality and expertise of the eminent personalities present at this conference, I'm convinced that this conference will be the cornerstone in the construction of global solutions to the recurring problems we have at sea.
I have no doubt that this conference will galvanize the necessary political buy-in of all member states and deepen collaboration among governments and stakeholders in the Gulf of Guinea region and beyond, so that together we can unlock the potentials of the blue economy. We need to change narrative that says that Africa's geostrategic location is more of a curse than a blessing. One way to do this is by using our location as the gateway to international trade to diversify our economies and expand intra-Africa trade as envisioned in the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. The continent must speak with one voice in the international arena. Demand for fair laws and regulations, as well as partnerships that are equitable, smart, and regulated in the mutual interest of all concerned. The Commission stands ready to support and work together with all regional economic communities to forge ahead.
Tell me a bit, what has been the major struggle you've been having with the Gulf of Guinea security there?
The Gulf of Guinea is a huge space in maritime domain with more than 6,000 kilometers. Unfortunately, instead of being a domain that is providing wealth to the coastal countries, more and more we are facing a lot of issues like piracy, armed robbery, IUU fishing, and other illicit activities at sea. And the issue is that all what we are doing so far is similar to render the situation more stable. We are facing more and more issues, and somehow the Gulf of Guinea has become the biggest hotspot in terms of insecurity, maritime insecurity in the world. And we have to deal with it absolutely by coordinating our action, state action, but also taking into account what the private sector can do for us.
So far, how's the collaboration been? Private sector, continental collaborations, how have it been faring?
Since 2011, let us say 2013, we have started trying to put together our efforts. The historical summit of head of state and government of ECOWAS and ECARS was organized in 2013 in Yaoundé and helped ECOWAS and ECARS to adopt three strategic documents: a political declaration, a code of conduct for the repression of illicit activities at sea, but also a MOU between ECOWAS, ECARS, and GGC in order to come up with this strategic document to implement together with the instrument called ICC. ICC is the International Coordination Center. This mechanism is superseding a maritime security architecture composed of centers, two centers, A and B in ECAS, E, F, and G in ECOWAS. And we are trying to put our member states together and coordinate their activities inside these zones with the headquarters. In ECOWAS, we have one headquarters in Benin, another one in Accra, and the last one is in Praia. By so doing, we allow our navies to be able to conduct operation, but also the center will serve as a focal point for other activities for other stakeholders to put their effort together and come up with a solution. Because without coordination, there's no one single individual country we can have a solution to the problem.
This conference presents yet another opportunity to harness collaborative initiatives towards curbing the maritime security challenges in the region with greater urgency. I therefore find the theme of this conference, Enhancing Maritime Security in the Gulf of Guinea, Together We Win, very timely and relevant. Under the ECOWAS Integrated Maritime Strategy, the Nigerian Navy, along with ECOWAS Zone E navies and the Gendarmerie of Niger Republic, also recently endorsed an MOU for joint patrol of their common maritime domain. Internally, drawing from its total spectrum maritime strategy, the Nigerian Navy has sustained the operational concept of maritime trinity of action, comprising surveillance capabilities, response initiatives, and law enforcement to combat maritime crimes. Consistent funding over the past 4 years has impacted positively on Nigeria's Navy surveillance and maritime domain awareness infrastructure. The Nigerian Navy has acquired offshore patrol vessels, fast attack craft, logistic vessels, hydrographic ship, and more than 300 inshore patrol craft, while concurrent efforts has been made to encourage operational training and indigenous shipbuilding capacity. Naval security stations have also been established at strategic locations along the coast as part of choke point concept to checkmate illicit activities. This has paid off with the arrest of about 206 vessels and barges, as well as hundreds of suspects for various maritime offenses in the past 4 years.
The Gulf of Guinea has been the focal point of the maritime sector for a while now because it's very crucial, not just to Africa, the world as a whole. The security concerns there are many, but solutions also many. Some of the things being talked about here as well, the security conference, maritime security conference in Abuja. And I have with me a woman who is in the core of it. She's working in a commission that deals with the Gulf of Guinea based in Angola, Luanda. Madam, welcome. Florentina Adenike Ukonga, Executive Secretary, Gulf of Guinea Commission, Luanda, Angola. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Improving in 1 or 2 countries. Which are some of the countries that have, witnessed some form of improvement?
I would say that Nigeria has done a lot, because you see, before there is what the navies call sea blindness. That means the authorities have been oblivious to what is going on in the sea. They've concentrated on what's on the land. But with the agitation in the Niger Delta of Nigeria, there was a resurgence of consciousness that, look, you cannot just concentrate on land issues, because insecurity on sea actually starts on the land. When they want to escape land, they go to the sea because they know it's poorly patrolled. But the Nigerian government in recent years they've tried to empower the Navy, so they've been able to at least take control to a large extent of their territorial waters. And they have also deployed a few new technologies that can actually see the bad guys at sea, and with the collaboration they have with some of the neighboring states, they've been able to curtail some of the attacks.
The Gulf of Guinea, a strategic maritime lane, strategic maritime route, our local economies of most of the African countries and indeed Europe This is the route of exchange, of maritime activities, of awareness of our maritime domain. 5,000 barrels a day is produced within the Gulf of Guinea. It's about 6,000 miles coastline. And all we have gathered the world to discuss the safety and security along this important body of waters.
The conference, therefore, provides us yet another avenue as maritime stakeholders in the Gulf of Guinea particularly to reminisce on the imperatives of improving on our attainments and achievements. To this end, our collective focus should go beyond the usual rhetoric to clearly identify specific measures to prudently build capacity and sensibly commit it to answer our maritime security concerns on a sustainable basis. Against this backdrop, I'm confident that the theme of the conference, which is enhancing maritime security in the Gulf of Guinea, Together We Win, is very apt to guide a broad-based discourse.
Whilst there have been several endeavors to address the broad array of real and potential threats in the Gulf of Guinea over time, the approach this time is to appraise the relevance and impact of the various interventions already initiated to tackle maritime insecurity in the Gulf of Guinea and to revise and adapt them to address the current challenges. The absence of legal framework within member states seems to be a significant challenge in the regional effort to stem the tide. Nigeria, in this regard, thankfully put in place detailed legislation in the form of the Suppression of Piracy and Other Maritime Offences Act that Mr. President signed into law on the 24th of June 2019. This act would tackle and repress piracy and other maritime crimes in Nigeria, in the Nigerian maritime domain. An integrated maritime security architecture has also been in place with a command and control center for effective policing of the Nigerian waters. The initiative encompasses three main components. The first one is a C4I intelligence system to enhance domain awareness, acquisition of land, air, and marine assets for patrols, quick response, and the training and capacity building of the response teams to effectively respond to threats and incidences within the maritime domain. Our perspective as nation states today has a linkage to maritime security, considering that over 90% of world international trade is by sea. Thus, striving to maintain safe, secure shipping in our seas and oceans is non-negotiable.
The convening of this timely conference here in Nigeria is an indication that we will not relent in our efforts to rid our waters of the piracy's scourge. To succeed in our objective, a collective effort from all stakeholders represented here today is essential. I reiterate the need for a joint effort because security in the Gulf of Guinea is vital and central to global trade in view of the fact that many critical trade routes connecting the continent to the rest of the world run through this Gulf. Also, the Gulf of Guinea encompasses diverse geographical, geological, and rich cultural heritage, with many of its states endowed with vast oil and gas deposits critical in addressing global energy demands. More so, as the African continent forges ahead with Phase 2 negotiations for the creation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, safety and security of sea transportation are critical to seamless trade and effective economic integration. Our approach, therefore, towards the realization of maritime security in the region and other vital sea lanes is contingent on our collective effort and ability to put in place international, continental, regional, and national frameworks and resources in cooperation with critical stakeholders.
timely is this conference to you?
It is actually a very timely conference in that a lot of the security threats at sea in West and Central Africa have implications not just for the people living in the coastal areas, but countries across the region. And so I feel that by Nimasa and indeed the Nigerian government holding this conference, it shows that they are finally listening in terms of walking the talk and finding a lasting solution to so many of the security threats at sea that needs to be addressed more urgently.
You're a research person and you've really studied maritime security. If we come to the Gulf of Guinea now, from all your researches, what can you pinpoint as the major reason for the insecurity in that region?
If you cannot trickle it down to the people, it means that the blue economy is literally not doing what it should be doing. It should be about a balanced, sustainable, and inclusive exploitation or use of the ocean resources aimed at improving livelihood, social equity, whilst significantly reducing threats to the environment and ecological disasters. But if you look at Nigeria, Ghana, Angola, and other countries in West and Central Africa, and what is happening in terms of the way they are exploiting the resources in their maritime domain, you find that it is anything but inclusive or sustainable. And that is the narrative that needs to change. And therefore, I'm hoping that this conference is the beginning of, a new thing. It's no longer going to be business as usual as we've seen in the region previously. So I believe that this is actually a great moment to be talking about maritime security and the blue economy in West and Central Africa.
Let's talk about the relationship Brazil, Nigeria, the Gulf of Guinea. How does it concern Brazil?
Actually, we are in the same ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. And so we are part of the same problem. The problem that happens here in Nigeria would happen in Brazil. We have living in the same ocean. Our population lives and consumes fish, consume oil, energy from the same ocean. So that's important that collaboration among the people that lives in Atlantic Ocean. There is a Brazilian author, the name is Alberto Costa e Silva, that has a book. The title of the book is A River Called Atlantic. So we are in the same river, in the left bench of the river and the right bench, but you are in the same river. So that is very important, and some of the oil that we use in Brazil come from Nigeria oil platform, oil fields, despite of the Brazilian oil production in oil platforms seated in the ocean, in the shore of Brazil. So it's very important to collaborate and to get together in the same problem in the Atlantic Ocean.
Republic of Congo doing to keep our own part of Gulf of Guinea safe?
Republic of Congo, like all our countries around or across the Gulf of Guinea, most of our mission is try to do the best we can to protect our national interests and also to help all our people that are working on the seas to make their job in the secure and safe. So sometimes we try to make more patrols, try to survey our infrastructure about petroleum, and to do more things with our fishing administration.
Now, Nigeria, we usually would collaborate with other agencies, countries, with agencies like the Interpol and so on. Do you have things like that in place? Are you collaborating with other countries and agencies?
Yeah, from other countries, we make more joint operations or most training. That's the first step of our collaboration. We also have a collaboration about our, how to call the Gulf of Guinea infrastructure with CRESMAC or CRESMAO, just because in our country we have a center of operation maritimes. So we collaborate to sharing information with all our architecture of a network across the Gulf of Guinea.
much talked about Global Maritime Security Conference has come and has started. It started on a very, very good note. We had delegates from all over the world represented, especially people from the Gulf of Guinea had something to say about what this whole session has been about, how to secure the Gulf of Guinea. And we had goodwill messages from all around. Also, we had the Nimasa DG welcoming the world to Nigeria. What more do we have to offer? You keep finding out as Nimasa this week progresses, because we cannot give you everything we've had so far, and so we'll be giving you bit by bit. Remember to be good to your neighbor and love your neighbor the way you love yourselves. My name is Cordelia Obe. Bye-bye.